The question is, can Conor Benn be the first man to stop Chris Eubank Jr.? Let's talk about it right here on BWTM Sports. Don't go anywhere. Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to BWTM Sports. And thank you once again. Really appreciate it. And loving all the new subscribers. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Take a good look around the channel, particularly our old interviews. Lots of classics there, including Dimitri Bivol and Alexander Usyk's one of the interviews we've got up on the channel. Lots of Tyson Fury interviews and lots more. So check out the old interviews on BWTM Sports Gaming. Okay, so on to this one. Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. They finally met. They had a press conference. And I have to say I'm disturbed about this fight. Disturbed about this fight because while Chris Eubank Jr. sounded like a master in that press conference and sounded like a real boss in control of things, going back and thinking about it, he was talking utter rubbish. I'll explain why. The question people are asking is, can Conor Benn stop Chris Eubank Jr.? A Chris Eubank Jr. who's fought as high as super middleweight fighting George Groves is not the comparison that people should be using. I mean, it's ludicrous. Why would you use a comparison between Chris Eubank Jr., who fought George Groves at super middleweight, when A, he's not even fighting at middleweight, super middleweight, and B, he's not even fighting at middleweight? If you're going to compare and contrast, at least put the man in the weight division. So you cannot compare any of Chris Eubank Jr.'s fights. You can't say what he did at super middleweight. You can't say what he did at middleweight. You can't say what he did against Billy Joe Saunders. You can't say what he did against Arthur Abraham. All those fights against DeGale, all those fights don't matter, because in all those fights, Chris Eubank knew he had a weight to make, middleweight or super middleweight. He made it very clear he's not a super middleweight, but he fought super middleweight to get the fights. But he's a middleweight, so we agree on that. He's not a light middleweight. And if you look at Chris Eubank's body, like I said 1,001 times already, you look at him weighing the middleweight, there's nothing on him. He is just pure, he's muscle, he's ripped. There's no fat on his body. So where is he taking the fat off to make the weight? So he's not even coming in at his normal fighting weight. So he's losing weight to fight. There's a couple of questions I've got to ask. He hasn't fought at the weight he's going to be contracted to fight at ever, or since he was 18 years old, he says. He's now 32 years old. Just use Oscar De La Hoya as an example, who looked body beautiful, but when he went in the ring, he was dry, completely bone dry, and Manny Pacquiao beat the crap out of him. They say it's dangerous for both fighters. No, that's garbage. That's absolute rubbish. Because I'll tell you now, Conor Benn would have come in at sparring, and he'd been sparring guys as heavy as Chris Eubank Jr. Fact. When they talk about Conor Benn preparing for fights, he'd be sparring guys as heavy as Eubank Jr. or heavier in sparring. God, I'm not a professional fighter, but I know when I was training, and I was training to be a pro, I was sparring guys maybe 2 weights above me. At the time, I was 63.5 kilograms, and I'm sparring guys that are light heavy. I'm sparring guys that are light heavy. And this isn't like body work. These guys are going for you, and you just have to use your feet to get yourself out, get yourself out of positions of getting hit and getting hurt by these guys. You are significantly quicker than these guys, and your footwork's there. But when you're tired and then you're told to spar a light heavyweight, it's something. But going back to my point, so Ben would have sparred with people heavier than himself before. That's not so much of a danger. The danger is when See, if Gennady Golovkin fought Kell Brook and he told Golovkin to come in at light middleweight and Brook came up in weight, that would have been a different fight because you would have seen a weight drain Gennady Golovkin, but we didn't see that. So I don't know why people keep using the Kell Brook example because that's not a very good example. And I don't know why they keep saying Eubank's tough and strong. He's tough and strong at 160 or 168. When the man is killing himself to make, literally talking about, well, I'm only going to be 60%, but I can beat him at 60%. How the hell do you know you can beat a man at 60% when you haven't fought at 60% since you were 18 years old? And when you were 18 years old, you fought at 100% because that was the weight you could make at the time. So it's nonsense what Chris Eubank Jr. is talking. He's talking absolute crap. It's impossible for you to know that you will be able to fight effectively against a man who's well hydrated and he's going to be able to fight at the pace that he chooses. How can it be a difficult fight for Conor Benn? I don't understand. The guy's rehydrating, one. He can still retain his speed. So because it's at middleweight or just under middleweight, it doesn't mean Conor Benn has to come in at middleweight. As long as he can retain his speed and his punching power, he doesn't need to go all the way up to meet Chris Eubank Jr. He doesn't need to. He just needs to punch hard enough and in volumes to the body. And Eubank won't be able to unload the same punches that he would unload in a normal fight because he's well hydrated. So I don't know where people are getting these ideas from that Eubank can't be stopped. If anything, Eubank is more likely to get stopped or run out of gas, because if Ben comes out and puts that pressure on Eubank and starts whacking to the body, that's where, if you're weight drained, that's where you're going to be weak. And he may have no snap in his punches. So if Eubank's got no snap in his punches and he's weak at the weight, then Conor Benn is fighting a skeleton or a shell of Eubank Jr. And yes, Eubank has said some reckless things, because if he can't stop Conor Benn, if he can't stop Conor Benn and he can't stop Ben coming forward, he's got a problem on the night, and he better start looking at retiring, because this is a dangerous fight for Eubank Jr. Good evening, Leif. Fight is happening for money. Eubank loses, he says, I was weight drained. If Ben loses, he says it was too big. Can't get up for this fight. I get it. I hear it. But you see, because you think outside the box, Leif, and you've seen these things come round all the time, you see, we knew this fight was going to happen. It was typical this fight was going to happen. But there we go. Eventually, Eddie was going to throw his man under the bus. And here's the fight to throw him under the bus. But the way you throw him under the bus, say, well, he did fight a Eubank Jr. who was weight drained. He hasn't been at the weight since 18 years old. If one person can turn around and tell you in boxing who isn't associated with Matchroom and Eddie Hearn and is being paid, he's going to say, oh, yeah, this is a tough fight for Conor Benn in comparison to what Eubank's having to do. That's talking rubbish. They're talking rubbish. They're trying to sell the fight. They're talking rubbish. Absolute rubbish. How is he going to walk through Ben? How does Eubank walk through Ben? Do you know what Eubank looks like at 60%? Do you know what you... show me one fight you've seen Eubank fight at under middleweight. Show me the fight you've seen that, and then tell me you can walk through. This is fantasy talk. You don't know. You're guessworking. You're basing your Eubank walks through Ben. Eubank walks through Ben based on what? He didn't walk through Marcus Morrison. He didn't walk through Marcus Morrison. He didn't walk through Liam Williams. He didn't walk through Arthur Abraham. Who has he walked through? Eubank doesn't walk through anybody. You know, he apart from that guy he fought in the what's that championship? That I can't remember what his name. He knocked him out in the third round. Eubank knocks out you. He might. No, I don't think so, bro. I think you're in dreamland. I think you're trolling as well. Eubank, Ben knocks out Eubank. He probably will, and it was a sad thing to see. It'll be a sad thing to see. Do you think the weight drain is dangerous for Eubank's health-wise? Absolutely. At 32 years old, think about this. At 32 years old, you'll bring your body down. The damage that's going to cause water on the brain. You're taking water off the brain, right? And you're getting hit repeatedly now. Repeatedly. Vildrum, that's the guy. You're getting hit repeatedly, right? Because Ben is going to hit with his best shots. And shots that normally would not trouble Eubank will trouble him. Because you're now fighting in an unknown weight. And the only time you're going to really know about your durability is when you're in that ring. And you can't call upon those reserves as you normally would. So, how's he going to fight this fight? One jab, and catch him with a right hand? How's he going to fight this fight? And even if he does get through this fight, what's going to be left of him? Yeah, Eubank walked through Ty and Booth. There you go. Tell these guys, please educate these guys. Educate these guys, man. I like Eubank Jr. Big fan of Eubank Jr., right? But I don't do fantasy talk. I don't do fanboy talk. I don't do it, right? I just look at things for what they are. If you can give me one fight where Eubank Jr., at that weight he's fighting at, has walked through somebody. If he walked through someone, Conor Benn wouldn't take the fight. Conor Benn would not take the fight. If we're talking about the Eubank Jr. that fought George Groves, Conor Benn does not take that fight. Conor Benn does not take the fight against the guy that fought Liam Williams. No, doesn't. No chance. But a guy that is weight drained, now we're evening things up. And then you're coming in well hydrated. And then you might even be better moving up in weight. So the advantages all lay with Ben, not with Eubank Jr. Conor Benn, you've been raving about beating bum opposition. You know damn well it's a wash Ben. He's going to wash Ben. Look, as I said before, he washes Ben. I'm explaining how he washes Ben. He washes Ben. That Eubank Jr. for Liam Williams, that Eubank Jr. for George Groves, that guy, the hydrated Eubank, yes, but not this guy. Eubank killed Nick Blackwell, though, flatlined in an ambulance and got revived. I know a lot about that fight because I remember interviewing Nick Blackwell before the fight. I'm not gonna talk too much about that fight, but I did talk to Nick before the fight and after the fight, and subsequently then. But that's Nick Blackwell, and Nick Blackwell was never a puncher, not like Conor Benn is. No, I don't. No, you're talking about Eubank Jr. who was not weight drained. You have to think about Eubank Jr. as a weight drained. And that's the thing. That's the illusion. Boxing fans get caught up in the hype. They get caught up in the Ben versus Eubank. But they're not looking at weight drained Eubank, who's never been at the weight since 18 years old, versus a hydrated Conor Benn. They're not saying that. Because if they sell that to you on pay-per-view and you're paying for that, you're going to say, no, I ain't taking that fight. I'm not watching that fight because it's not the genuine, it's not the full Eubank Jr. He's telling you to your face in a press conference, listen, I'm not going to be 100%. There's no way I can be. He's telling you already. He's not making excuses. It is what it is. He fought Van Heerderen at a higher weight than this catch weight, but he still gets plastered by Eubank. You'd like to think Eubank at 60% can do it, but my thing is, you all are very confident that Eubank is going to have snap on his punches. I'm not. If you look at Oscar De La Hoya before he fought Manny Pacquiao, people thought Pacquiao fighting Oscar De La Hoya. This is crazy. And then Oscar De La Hoya came in weight drained. But I don't. Is it true they're both taking on 5 million? Quite possibly. But I don't. Can't buy this, guys. Who's Benn beat to make you so confident? 2 wash-ups, 140 pounders. That's not it. That's not my point. You're not getting my point. I'm not arguing with you about who Benn has fought. What I'm saying to you is that it's not the Eubank that we all love and know. That Eubank we're talking about a guy 60%. Those of you who get it will get it. Those of you who don't get it will understand on the night. He's going to look sick, Eubank Jr. There's no way around it. He's going to look sick. Look at Eubank. I encourage you boxing fans, go and look at Chris Eubank on the scale, weighing in for a fight. Particularly, maybe his last 2 fights, but at middleweight, when he's fought middleweight recently. Look at him, and you can see any fat on that body. And then features of where is he going to lose the extra 4 or 5 pounds or how much he's got to lose, and keep on that weight. He can't go over, remember? He can't go over. I'm not so sure he makes 160 Vs. That's my concern, the weight. If Eubank Jr., as I said, I repeat, if Eubank Jr. trains normally and fights at 160 and Conor Benn comes in whatever weight he wants to come in at, don't even bother turning to see the fight. But this fight here, No. I don't see it somehow. So I'm going to try and call somebody in, maybe before the week hits up, to talk about weight drain and how weight drain affects the body, because this is pure weight drain. This is proper weight drain, and the effects of weight drain. And it's just to the areas I'll be looking at Eubank Jr. Punch resistance, the ability to throw volume of punches, the recovery rate. When you get hit with a punch, normally you recover quickly. Your powers of recuperation is not the same. Your second wind, what second wind? Go and look Oscar De La Hoya versus Manny Pacquiao. Oscar was a giant compared to Pacquiao, and Pacquiao messed him up. Go and look at Pacquiao versus Miguel Cotto. Again, bringing the guys down in weight. You drag these guys down in weight, this is what happens. History teaches us about things like this. We should not ignore it. That's true. If Eubank is weight drained, Benn has a much better chance. Of course he has. As I've said, this fight is in his favor, and he's got a much better chance of stopping Eubank. The same body shot that Benn would have landed on Eubank at super middleweight Eubank would have laughed it off. All right, let me throw it to you this way. Let Eubank fight George Groves at under middleweight in a super under middleweight. Let him cut the weight to fight George Groves at super middleweight, who will probably weigh in at like a light heavyweight, and tell Eubank Jr., oh, you've got weighing under middleweight for a fight. That's part of the clause, catch weight. You think Eubank Jr. is going to stand up to them blows? He's not. And if he does, it's not internally good for him. That's the only way I can really bring home to you guys the danger in this fight. And Eubank talk about 60% is enough. First of all, you don't know how strong Conor Benn's going to be. and you don't know how strong you're going to be, and you don't know how durable you're going to be to Conor Benn's punches. Big up, brother Ingram in the chat. Yes, James. Hope you're well. So yeah, I don't want to make a big thing out of this video, but it's something to think about. Let me know what you think in the comment section regarding Eubank and this weight, because to me, it's ugly. To me, it's just not healthy. And yes, there's a smash and grab here. And let me tell you something else. Historically, have a think about this one. Eubank versus Benn, the first fight. Did you know that Nigel Benn had to sweat extra pounds off because he came in for the weigh-in for his fight against Eubank overweight, and he had to shed about 2 or 3 pounds either on the day of the fight or something like that, and he had to go to a sauna, and those extra 2-3 pounds hurt Benn. So it's interesting now. It's Eubank that's going to be with the weight and having to deal with weight. Very, very interesting. Yes, I know he was dropped by Paynod. I know he was dropped by Paynod. I know. But again, weight, when you put weight on, especially if you're not, if durability, Ben may be better suited at light middleweight than at welterweight. Just like I've got a sneaking feeling that Gennady Golovkin is going to be better at super middleweight than at middleweight. So I understand the whole thing about Paynod. I mentioned it in my last time about Ben and Eubank, and Ben having a very soft chin. But you know, he might have an iron chin after this fight because Eubank's got no snap on his punches. Remember, you're comparing a UB, and even Paynod was not weight drained. Plus, Eubank's training camp is more about weight, not strength and conditioning. Thank you very much. I hear you, Ingram. If this was a Dawson Ward situation, I understand, but 3 pounds off for a naturally small guy in Eubank isn't much. Yeah? All right. Because you're Eubank Jr. Because you're Eubank Jr. doing the fight. You don't understand how much those 3 pounds mean. You don't know. You're just talking, oh, 3 pounds don't make much. You can say that, but you're not Eubank Jr. It's only 3 pounds. It's only a couple of pounds. It's only a couple of pounds. It's only a couple of pounds for you sitting down on the keyboard saying that, or on your phone saying that. It's not a couple of pounds, mate. It's sweat. It's sweat. It's water leaving your body. And you're leaving your body, you're leaving a state that your body is programmed and prepared to go to war in, and then you're depleting it by an extra 2 pounds or 3 pounds, and that makes a difference. It makes a difference. I legitimately think this fight is a borderline criminal. We know weight training is dangerous. No one cares for Eubank's safety. There you go. Oh my chair, thank you, LOL. Well, you get what I'm saying. I don't. When it comes to weight and stuff like this, I can't be blind. You see it there. And somebody mentioned Nick Blackwell. Well, we're looking at Chris Eubank Jr. here and his safety. And he won't know what his punch resistance is like until he's either not being able to get off from a body shot or knocked out cold because he weight trained. That's my concern. Could make all the difference, but Tony Sim said max limit is 158.5. If Eubank is over, then the fight is off. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's all talk. That's talk. Can you imagine Eddie Hearn pulling that fight or Sauerland pulling that fight? Not going to happen. Not going to happen. That's hype. That's talk. That's just talk. That fight is happening. People need to get paid. You think they care? If they cared that much, the weights would be different. So I don't believe Tony Sims. I think they're saying it now just to keep people, you know, on tender hooks. But, you know, yeah. So those are my thoughts. The weight is dangerous as far as I'm concerned for Eubank Jr. If Eubank Jr. and if Eubank Jr. was like 26, 27, 28, yeah, I would have probably said, okay. But he's 32 years old. He's 32 years old. And knowing Eubank Sr. like the way I do, and I said when Eubank Jr. started his career, his dad would see him take a beating off a heavyweight and turn his back just to know that his son could fight. That's the sort of thing his father would have done. So I don't know how many hard spars Eubank has done through the years. And I don't know how much the weight drain is going to have on him. So those are my thoughts on it. So thank you all for watching as always. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, leave your comments, share the videos as always. Check out my section now on the channel with cricket. That's what I'm doing on a weekly basis. Check that out as well. Yeah. And yeah, check out also the weekly show that I'm on. Please do check that on as well. Canelo said the 152 catchweight is a big difference against Floyd. 2 pounds less than his usual 154. Yep. 2 pounds make a difference. But he's an idiot because he was saying he'll come down to 152 to fight Floyd. That's his business. I don't care about Canelo. That's his business. And he better be careful of Gennady Golovkin. He better be careful. Because Golovkin at super middleweight, he'd better stay that fight at middleweight. I just feel that Golovkin's going to be rehydrating and be a lot stronger. And I think that could be interesting for this rematch. Right, let me get out of here. Thank you all for watching as always. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, leave your comments. Smash the like video and like on the video as well. And much love. I appreciate you all. Take care.